I'll just say a first word of introduction to present the judges to you. One of those who's online with us is Lawrence Sail. So Lawrence Sail is with us this evening. He's a most distinguished poet, as you all know, and his career over many years has included being, for a long time, the chair of the Arvin Foundation, which those of you who are in the UK will know does extremely good work for poets, old and new. And he also memorably was the director of the Cheltenham Literature Festival in the 90s, in a year when it had a focus on European literature. Lawrence is here online. The other poet judge is Geoffrey Lehmer. He's our Australian judge this year. He's a most wonderful Australian writer. For any of you who haven't explored Australian poetry, please put him on your next birthday or Christmas list immediately. Like many Australian poets, he has a very profound affinity with the classical world. I recommend you read his book Nero's poems, but also a great love of the land. And I would point you very happily to the one book which appeared in this country from Faber, Spring Forest. Many, many aspects to this poet. So those are our two poets among the judges, and Roland Jackson, who's a historian and scientist and a former head of London Science Museum, is one of our two who will be properly introduced a little later by Donald. And the other is the eminent physiologist, Professor John Stein. For those of you who like eating, you'll perhaps know his brother slightly better than you know him. But trust me, he's most distinguished as well. Those are our judges this year. So Geoffrey, Roland, and John were the judges of the health professional and the open category. And Lawrence, with whom we will be beginning today, had the great pleasure of choosing between the Young Poets poems. The Young Poets Prize was added to the original two categories in 2013. It's for young people between 14 and 18. And over the years, we've already had some astonishing testimonies to the imaginative vigor and also the emotional richness of young people. So, but the thing one should always remember is that Rimbaud, for example, gave up poetry when he was 19. Whenever I think young poet, I just remind myself of that.
Thank you very much, Michael. Hello, everyone. This is unrehearsed, but it was Rimbaud who said, "On n'est pas sérieux quand on a 17 ans." It was indeed a pleasure. Let me just tell you quickly, there were 97 entries for the Young Poets Prize from no fewer than 17 countries and territories. And here they are: Brazil, China, Hong Kong, India, Indonesia, Israel, Kosovo, Malaysia, New Zealand, Nigeria, Romania, Saudi Arabia, Serbia, South Korea, USA, United Arab Emirates, and the United Kingdom. I'll begin by announcing the shortlist of 6 in alphabetical order of the poem's titles, then continue with some general remarks, as well as commenting briefly on the shortlisted poems, and then I will announce the winner. So the shortlist, All the Places We Have Been, these are titles first, All the Places We Have Been by Catherine Van der Mel in Gloucester, New Jersey, USA, and also by her second poem on the shortlist, Blur. Then Bright Body by Cynthia Liu from Belmont, Massachusetts. Endoscopy Results in Room 1 by Rachel Brooks from Trumbull in Connecticut. Obituary of a Lost Girl by Sarah Eliana Natchinson from Los Angeles. And Pink Milk by Sabrina Guo from Oyster Bay Cove, New York. It's hard to imagine a zone more fraught for the writer than one in which the vivid and often raw world of medical experience meets the artistic quest for shape and meaning. All the more impressive then that so many of the entries for the prize succeed to the extent that they do, with a directness and energy owing much to their age range, as Michael has already mentioned, 14 to 18. The poems encompass a considerable variety of subjects, including anorexia, dementia, surgery, and depression. While some are very much first-person accounts of hospital experience or medical treatment, others focus on friends or family. Some grapple with the immediacy of illness or suffering. As one writer puts it, suffering up close is much harder than afar. That's from a poem called A Normal Pressure Hydrocephalus Dad. And some articulate the strain of it all, as in Edge of the Abyss, where the writer is seen as torn between the constant perpetual suspension of living to the limit and the edge of the abyss. It's a strain which in some instances produces a strain in the language of the poem. The difficulty of the subject emphasizing a tendency towards overwriting that is in any case not uncommon among developing and talented writers in this age group. As to the structure of the poems, great variety and evidence here too. There were 3 sonnets among the entries and 14 poems that deployed full end rhyme. Not always, I have to say, avoiding the too easy closure and sense of comfort that rhyme can sometimes suggest. Others were formally much looser. Of these, some, it's true, could have benefited from greater editing. I've already referred to 2 of the poems individually, Edge of the Abyss by Natalie Shah from Birmingham, England, and A Normal Pressure Hydrocephalus Dad, which was written by Rachel Sharp from Morpeth, England. Both poems are deserving of the honourable mention I give them here. The 6 poems on the shortlist all remind me in one way or another of the assertion that poetry is not what you read, but what you reread. All the Places We've Been by Catherine van der Mel brings a sharp and affectionate focus to bear on the writer's grandmother in old age, with her memory failing along with her perception of the world. I see how you let go so easily, how your hands let go of faces. And the poem rounds tellingly to the writer's own need for memories. And then Catherine's second poem, the airy couplets that make up Blur, likewise addresses memory loss and confusion, this time as experienced by the writer's mother. The poem explores the perspectives of the past as well as the present, recalling that was the year it began. Mother heard the wind sing panacea, saw pretty ghosts. Cynthia Liu's poem, Bright Body, rhythmical and deftly structured, moves from the opening image of a dead bird to the evocation of a human death, risking along the way the near abstract observation of how remarkable evolution is, that life can learn to survive through echoes. It's a risk counterbalanced by the particularities that follow, and in the third verse, the poet's personal response. I want light, warm and kind against my tears, but no luciferin enzymes here. Endoscopy results in room 1 is a near despairing monologue, which with an energy fueled by frustration, also sustains several analogies with a religious experience. Hard to represent in a very brief summary, but here are 1 or 2 instances. One medication is seen as something that this mouth hosts, and an erythromycin tablet is described as a rigid oval wafting through the narthex of my intestines. These comparisons, along with others, cleverly imply wider values and questioning. Obituary of a Lost Girl, relaxed in tone and language and set in the world of the everyday, memorably depicts anorexia through the account of a friendship that raises issues of controlling behavior and envy. I particularly like the picture of those scab-faced boys, and even more, the girls' comparative weights, given with knapsacks as units of measurement, which also allows the poem its highly effective close. At the end, we weighed ourselves again. I was only 3 knapsacks, and Ellie was a ghost. Pink Milk owes much to the way it remains plausibly true to the character of its 7-year-old protagonists. Its apparent artlessness suggests a considerable talent for editing, and I really enjoyed very much the haiku-like resonance of the poem's ending. Well, there's the short list of 6, and I hope that even in those short remarks, the writers will feel that they have been properly read. And we're going to listen to one of the shortlisted poems now. So here, coming up, is Sarah Eliana Natchinson reading her poem, Obituary of a Lost Girl.
I remember the summer when we were in the 7-Eleven parking lot and we challenged ourselves to grow slimmer and slimmer so that scab-faced boys would follow us like faithful fans and our school friends would admire us from afar. Ellie weighed 8 knapsacks at the beginning and I weighed 12. We would run around the courtyard, sprinting within the fences like fish in a bowl. Ellie bragged to me, showed me her newly hollowed shell, how I could brush upon her poking out scapula and touch each rib like a musical instrument. She thought she herself was a new treasure, and I did too. I wanted to fade as fast as her. I wanted her husk of a body and slim figure that boys stared at for a bit too long. I wanted to go on a beach in Greece and be the gladdest, most untouchable thing there. At the end, we weighed ourselves again. I was only 3 knapsacks, and Ellie was a ghost.
Well, thank you. It's very interesting for me to actually hear it as well as reading and rereading it. In the end, it's, and here comes the winner, it's Cynthia Liu I've chosen as the winner for her accomplished and memorable poem, Bright Body. And this report on the 2020 Young Poets Competition concludes with her reading it. Before that, though, let me very simply thank all those who submitted poems and gave me the pleasure of reading them. I hope that the next competition will produce as good an entry and even more numbers. Here then, coming up, Cynthia Liu reading her winning poem, Bright Body.
Bright-bodied. Once, my brother and I found a dead bird in our backyard, its wings still damp with sunlight. We held it as a secret in palms red-breathed and eager, never so close to death before. How remarkable evolution is, that life can learn to survive through echoes. I let myself fall into that still open beak and couldn't help but think of your ribcage, singing with light on the display monitor, nothing visible except bone. I want to go back to that afternoon, when all we knew was the softness of death without having to be traced inside out. I want light warm and kind against my tears, but no luciferin enzymes here. This glow comes so unnaturally to our bodies. We are never good enough at replacement. If only the spine were more forgiving, I would peel away the paper rustle of these hospital gowns and fold you wings.
I should also add that we're very grateful for support from many organizations. We are very grateful for support for the Hippocrates Young Poets Prize from Healthy Heart Charity, the Cardiovascular Research Trust. You can find out more about the charity on its website, healthyheartcharity.com. What we're going to do now is move on to hear about the other 2 categories of the awards. Our second judge we're going to hear from this evening, Sail and Roland Jackson, who's a distinguished scientist, a historian, and as you heard from Michael, he has been director of the Science Museums in London, a former chief executive of the British Science Association, as well as a member of the Nuffield Bioethics Council. And he's a tremendous authority on a phenomenal Victorian polymath, John Tyndall.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed, Donald, and a warm welcome from me to everyone who's joining this event. I think about 60 people or more online at the moment. And so on behalf of my fellow judges, Geoffrey Lehman and John Stein, I'd like to thank everyone who sent in poems to this year's competition. It was a privilege to judge them all. As judges, we were presented with a long list of around 80 poems in each category. That's health, professional and open, and they were of a tremendous standard. We enjoyed reading them all, and choosing winners was no easy task. Indeed, rather than shortlisting 3 in each category as winners, we shortlisted 5 and we commended many more. There was great variety in the poems, so many different feelings and images evoked, of time slowing down, of an intense sense of place, of heightened awareness of the significance of a particular moment, of the trajectories and arbitrariness of illness, of the vividness of small things, often not noticed, that suddenly break into consciousness. The realization that everything has changed. There is rage, but also, and perhaps predominantly, calm and resignation, often. And I hope you enjoy reading all the poems in the anthology. But to maintain the suspense a little, and before I announce the awards, starting with the health professional category, I'll hand back to Donald, who is going to start with some of the commended entries.
If I could start by asking Roger Bloor, the side room at the end of the ward.
The side room at the end of the ward. Cancer caged, she prowls her space, stalks half-sleep borders of her pain, dull-eyed and ash-grey pale. She strains against the heavy chains that tie her to this place, claws bed and bars and sheets, rips out the morphine drip. Exhausted by her struggles to escape, she turns her face away towards the margins of the dark and slips back through the trees to fade into the night.
Roger, thank you very much indeed. We'll next hear from Carol Bromley for her poem Handover. Carol.
Handover. Apparently, they'd said I was going downhill. I was astonished to hear they'd noticed me beyond replacing the bag on my drip stand and bringing me the wrong supper. The nurse sat down on the edge of my bed and gave me some advice. My diastolic had gone up to 90 that morning, which, considering I was waiting for brain surgery, seemed to me not unreasonable. Not that I've ever understood blood pressure, but he said, "I can see you've been crying. What you need to do is relax and enjoy the weekend." Good advice, if a little hard to act on. He said he'd show me how to bring the numbers down. Lie back, breathe deeply, and imagine yourself on a beach. So I did. He said, "Who's there with you and what are you doing?" Cape Sunion, 1968, and the Aegean, blue as a bottle of ink, the ruined temple towering above us. John Nelson applying cream to my back, and the only problem in the world, which taverna to go to for a glass of ouzo and one of those cakes made with honey, 120/70. Thank you.
Carol, thank you very much indeed. And the next poem is by Karen Schofield.
Pattern recognition. I adjust the focus. Your cells are flowers in purples, blues and reds, alien blooms forced down the wrong path. Zooming out, my eyes walk over a Persian carpet. The weaver played a trick, altered a lily or lotus to tell a different story. A tapestry of shifted warps, missing threads, an unbidden work of art hung in a room hidden from your view. Later, writing my report, I open the door, show you round, explain the different pattern to your life that is about to start.
Thank you very much, Karen. Next, we have Emma Storr with Not Herself.
Not herself. Her name was Sarah, 6 years old, a bit drowsy, not herself. I nearly sent her home. A slight fever, off her food a few days. My notes were full of N's, no vomiting, no rash, no neck stiffness. But not herself, her mum kept saying. I nearly sent her home. My hands were surprised. She was pale, cool to touch. Ambulances on strike. I said a taxi to the hospital might be a good idea. A week later, the discharge letter was full of M's. Moribund, meningitis, made a speedy recovery. Miracle. I nearly sent her home.
Thank you very much, Emma. And next we'll move to Paulette Turco. Where are you speaking from, Paulette?
I'm speaking from just north of Boston, Massachusetts, on the way to school, missing tyrosinase. His features like his dad's, his soft curled hair, not black, near white, his skin so pale, blue eyes. He stands apart inside his village, but doesn't sense a threat. He doesn't hear the whispers. Only 12, born nearly blind, he doesn't hunt, but helps his brothers on the farm. He's not afraid to walk 4 miles to school alone. Knows no one who would ever hurt him. You freak! A boy throws acid in his face and runs away. The pain so bad, he screams. He cries. The doctors say he closed his eyes in time, and he forgives the boy. The scars will stay. His skin, his hair, his eyes still pale. His eyes still jiggle all the time. He knows.
The Anatomy of Wonder. I want to be unmade, to unknow what I have learned. I want love to feel miraculous again, to feel like more than the action of dopamine on weary synapses, a mere product of attachment styles. I want to unlabel every sinew of every specimen I have dissected in this plight to understand what I couldn't control. I want to unknow the physiology of arousal, to believe the faithfulness of a man could be measured not by the density of oxytocin receptors, but by their word. I want to wonder again about God and the meaning of things, to return to what it was like before I realized meaning is just something we need to read into this terror that cannot be tamed by the division of thoughts on a blank page with 3 columns. I want to run through the fields of my childhood at dusk, feel the blood burning in my face without a thought to ventricles or valve cusps. I want to believe that vowels chanted by candlelight could summon a sulky's head from the silvering waters, to believe that my brother is not beyond help, and that I have inside me 1,000 ways to describe the beauty of this earth, the crashing waves and the way light fades from the skies.
Penny, thank you very much indeed.
The Surgeon Secretary phones to cancel your appointment. We both make a diary note, adjust our mindsets, review our plans for tomorrow. We are accustomed to it now. I think of the flatlands, the runoff by the bypass that floods each year, of the horses who graze as the days lengthen, who are moved just in time, of early clouds rising as the weather cools into winter, in shades of pink so subtle over the water, how sometimes ducks appear unexpectedly. The road is less than a mile long. It skirts the town, the new builds, divides us from this misted dreamland which disappears each spring. Maybe by next week the rain will have come again. Maybe tomorrow I'll go out, listen for the whinny of the horses.
You can find out more about the commended poets and what inspired their poems on the Hippocrates website, hippocrates-poetry.org. I shall now hand you back to Roland Jackson, who will announce the winners of the 2020 FPM-Hippocrates Awards.
Okay, thank you, Donald. So we're going to go traditionally in reverse order, as it were. And what I'm going to do is to read out the third, second, and first prize winners in that reverse order, and after each one, ask the poet if he or she is here to read the poem. Alternatively, in some cases, we have a recording or a video. So the Health Professional Awards, joint third prize. We awarded 2 joint third prizes. And the first of those is by virtue of the merits of her son, from Patrick Toland of Belfast, County Down in Northern Ireland.
By virtue of the merits of her son. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and my mother says she is the Immaculate Conception. I can't help notice those walls haven't been painted for a while. That green linoleum looks tired. Did I say I paid for parking, or is the ticket up face to the screen? But she's insistent, so I say, yes, Mum, I know you are the Immaculate Conception, and try hard not to look at the light of beautification radiating from her face. The doctor on the ward looks worse than the patients, and the rain on the locked windows is pouring down like a prophecy in reverse. Maybe instead of drowning, the whole hospital will lift on the waters, and off we'll go, 2 Marie Antoinettes, 2 Christs, 2 Napoleons. And there at the bow, my mother in her blue night dress and her halo of unbrushed hair, and me telling another, like all good sons, no, there is only one Immaculate Conception.
Second joint third prize winner is Judith Wozniak from Fareham in Hampshire in England with Second Opinion.
Second Opinion. By the time I arrive, she's already in her nightdress, her feet steadied in oversized slippers with a fur ruff. The heating is set to tropical. My glasses steam up. I settle on the sofa. This could take some time. I struggle to extract clues, check red flags, hidden agendas, examine vital signs. I try charming her. You're like my mother. She's delighted. I'm getting weary now. One last try. Is anything else worrying you? Tomorrow's the wedding, her granddaughter's. She has been warned not to let the family down. She disappears to her bedroom. Returns wearing a huge hat like the Quangle Wangles. It's feathered, beribboned, quivering. I peer underneath, wipe a trickle of tears from her chin. It needs a minor op. With her informed consent, I tease out 2 pheasant feathers, a cluster of plastic cherries, then use my sterile scissors to trim the organza bow. She beams at her reflection. It's amazing, I say.
Thank you very much indeed. And now to the second prize, where again we awarded 2 joint second prizes. The first is The Untouchable from Una Chantrell from London.
The Untouchable. First sight of him and I can't look. Me hooked up to apparatus. Scan machines melt walls of flesh, invade the privacy of wombs, bent like boats, softly rocking coracles, trimesters cast adrift. Drugs enough to make you seasick. Trolleyed down green labyrinths without a trail of string. The double door delivery room, cold shine of steel, and sterile catching bowl. Now look, before we confiscate him, swaddled small in linen folds, plasma cast from Pompeii, asleep or what? His ancient face, the pallor of dream, let it not be pain. Body the color of a wrinkled grape, oh haze of gas and air. Purblind I lean towards sad Madonnas out of Leonardo. Dolorous mothers line the labor ward, whispering, don't touch, bone will turn to ash, as if he might be dynamite, blow me apart, as if he has not yet. Ugly, lovely, homunculus, purple moon man displaced, and no one knows his name. Look in his eyes, loneliness, such as I have never seen.
Thank you very much. And I notice on the chat that one or two people are asking, saying that they quite like to know the background of some of the health professional poets who are reading. Excellent. Okay, thank you, Donald. So that's the way to find out about them. So the joint second prize is Lauren Fields from New York City in the US, a laying on of hands in the OR.
My name is Lauren Fields, and this piece is entitled A Laying On of Hands in the OR. Today, it feels like prayer. The pause for a moment of peace before the raising of voices. We bow our heads over an impossibility, over the bifurcation of life and something that is not life. Today, it feels like a call and response of masked voices across a body broken, across blood. We asked her to believe, to trust the work of hands and metal in this sterile sanctuary, where the buzzing of cautery is a hymn, and a single drumming heart keeps time.
Tremendous. So to the first prize, which if you've been looking at the shortlist, you may have worked out by process of elimination, but I'm delighted to say that the first prize winner in the health professionals category is Judith Wozniak with her poem First Do No Harm. So Judith, many congratulations, and would you like to read your winning poem?
First do no harm, after Hippocrates. He staggers out across our path, drapes his arms around me, just a lad. At first we laugh, we think he's drunk. A peony-shaped stain spreads crimson across my best navy dress with silk ties. We're on our way out to celebrate making it through the first year. He starts to claw the air, his face pale as candle wax. I'm kneeling in his spilled blood, splashed flecks stiffen my face. I feel it seep, sticky between my thighs. Press my ear against his chest, listen for a heartbeat. People gather, we fend them off. Don't worry, we're all doctors. We don't believe it ourselves. Long for the sound of a siren, the rotating pulse of blue light, the safety of the hospital, the crash team running, the clatter of drip stands, hours spent learning lists, practicing procedures, and all we can do is to wait.
And so now on to the open awards, and I'll hand back to Donald, who is going to start with the commended entries.
Thank you very much indeed, Roland. Well, we're now going to hear 6 readings of commended poems from the open category.
Penrol, the night ward is brackish, flat, and I'm silent, awake, stifled by tepid air. Pain in the past, lit like a white flame, feathering my nerves to scorching tips. But tonight, pain is beyond bone, ceaseless, sculling out on long black oars. It splinters self into spirit, body, mind. 3 of us now, each rising to the flight. Thank you.
The Parkinson Code. You used to catch me at it, my arm a tent pole under the sheets, my slim volume, a torch lightening the darkness of words. And then I went wandering west. Coming back to care for you, I've caught you at it, reading your slim volume on tremor, white letters on red, like the highway code. A small press publication, jacket a size too big, as if concealing something. Did you not want us to see the Trojan horse in our midst? Did you read from cover to cover the proofs of your illness, then hide it away in a drawer with my letters from Canada and the deeds of the house? That lovely old man's stance that we keep on seeing, the Euclid of bent back and pendulum swinging arm, that deadpan joker face that kept us all smiling as you flossed your front teeth with the silk of your moustache. We keep on seeing it, playing your part to perfection, and end up 12 years on, constantly cracking the code, learn to almost love the disease.
The news. Early on, the weather system slung the forecast in the bin, dumped a shock of rain, forked its tongue, scuttled east. The clock stopped blank on the consultant's wall. I watched his lips unfurl to talk of time, prognosis, treatment, all the Arctic terms that freeze but never cure. I watched his head as sailors watched the Greenwich ball, but it stayed firmly on his assured and tailored shoulders. The room froze in sleep, while through the glass, across the moors, farmers saw the wind come biting deep, and Galahads on quad bikes called their sheep.
This poem is called Counting Back from 10, and it begins with these 2 quotes. On gender-affirming surgery, out of 60 participants, 95%, quote, rated the global outcome as favorable, and no one regretted their reassignment, end quote, according to a 2009 Swedish study by Annika Johansson et al. Quote, if anything, the Johansson 2009 study likely underreports the mental health benefits of medical and surgical care for transgender individuals, and suggests surgery provides extended and ongoing benefit, end quote. Dr. Joshua Safer, Executive Director at Mount Sinai Center for Transgender Medicine and Surgery, NBC News, 2019. Deity of the bright room, leaning over me, wearing only my skin, I'm still as a sarcophagus, as you ease your scalpel into my long-hated body. Never have I been so keenly aware of trust, bleeding forth freely as you push in 2 silver fingers, the forceps pulling out my mammary glands. Your palm raising my scoop of blood orange slices. You discard this separate handful of me, gently, into the waiting tin. The nurse starts to hand you your sharpened grail, but thinks no, he prefers a smaller one for this. My chest open on both sides, twin harvest crescents, 2 bloody slits of cracked open eyes. I watch you from the heart until you stitch my sight shut. Oh, voodoo doll, does it hurt you at all to hurt me into a more unique person? To flaw away my flaws for the sake of my gender? That cruel master we all yearn to know so well? Or do you lose yourself inside the messy project of me, flesh artist? That subtle delight of impressing yourself, only to finish and find me underwhelming. This is pride, I will think, when you unveil me to a mirror, so I may learn to love a scowling chimera for a chest. These red slits of tightly shut eyes, because to be my true self was never a gift, but a compromise. Tell me, slowly slicing angel, as you leave the most tender mark on my only body, do you have any idea how much love for myself you're opening up in me?
Chaplaincy. The white mulberry-lined hospital path from garage to entrance floods with silkworms, tiny, delicate creatures that cling to finely spun threads attached to deciduous leaves or firm branches. Often as I walk past, it seems the worms are flying, letting the autumn breeze take them on a graceful dance, their silks like tendrils or parachutes. And I focus my thoughts on healing and spirit, readying my heart to help and my hand to hold or let go.
Thank you very much, Kyla.
Thank you.
We weren't like the other mums and daughters who flung their love yous casually as school bags over shoulders. Instead, your love meant handing down your learning like an heirloom. What you knew of clouds and stars imparted, wildflowers known and named, lady's bed straw, shepherd's purse. Now that you repeat yourself, forget. I'll be like King Canute, post myself flint-faced, defend this futile beach against the tide's increase, barter with the waves to bide their time and leave for us a portion of shoreline, an islet, a rock, where we can talk of sea pinks and forget-me-nots.
My thanks to all the commended poets in the open category who've read for us. I'll now hand you back to Roland Jackson to announce the winners in the FPM-Hippocrates Open Prize.
Okay, thank you very much, Donald. So again, in reverse order, we awarded two joint third prizes. The first of those is Rosie Jackson from Troddock Hill in Frome, Somerset. It's time we found a different metaphor.
Hello, everybody. This is a Villain Elvis poem, and it's inspired by my friend Sophie Savage, who responded to a diagnosis of stage 4 terminal cancer with her remarkable book, The Cancer Whisperer, in 2016. And one of the things she argues for is to remove adversarial language when we talk about the treatment of cancer. The poem has an epigraph from The Cancer Whisperer. If I can find it, just lost it now. Here it is. The poem has an epigraph from The Cancer Whisperer, where Sophie writes, and I should say she's still with us, I'm pleased to say. Sophie writes, I want to get rid of my cancer, but I don't want to battle it. We can't heal on a battleground. And it's called, It's Time We Found a Different Metaphor. It's time we found a different metaphor. Cancer is an illness, not a battle. Let's not make the body a site of war. It's the go-to phrase for the media. X or Y lost their heroic struggle. It's time we found a different metaphor. Doubtless, the trope arises out of fear. But let's admit it, we are all terminal. Let's not make the body a site of war. Dying is simply an act of nature. Why is it a failure to be mortal? It's time we used a different metaphor. Believe me, I love life, love it now more than ever, but I won't make death hostile, won't make of my body a site of war. None of us knows when we'll walk through that door. Perhaps the timing belongs to the soul, but the soul needs a lighter metaphor for the body's story. It speaks love, not war.
Thank you. Also, the joint third prize to John Mills.
A letter from Dr. Parkinson's discovery. My dear fellow, for years I've been lurking in the dark recesses of your substantia nigra, where with the quiet cunning of the cutthroat, I've been picking up your neurons. Once I was content with my harvest, I shook your arm by way of salutation, gently at first, then with increasing vigour. Now we are properly acquainted, I shall do it continuously. Without invitation, I will slide into your dreams, giving you glimpses of the joy of unfettered movement that I snatch away when I fling you into the bedside furniture. Think of it like this. You ask me for movement, I ponder, then give you what I think fit. I'm afraid your needs are beyond my consideration, and you must know your place. I will let you sleep, but only at inappropriate times. When the thriller's plot begins to unravel, frankly, my dear, so will you. A particular satisfaction is to make you freeze. Lock every joint and limb, or slur, struggle to dress, shuffle. Onlookers will mimic your movement, point and laugh, and call you drunk, and you will weep at the injustice. It is childish, I know, but I feel a tremor of excitement as you lever yourself ponderously from a chair. Then, as you near the perpendicular, I drop you back down. I love shrinking your handwriting. And eventually, my friend, I will rob you of your expression as I will rob you of the ability to write your name. Rest assured, you will have good days, otherwise, how can you appreciate the bad? But there can be no Stockholm syndrome. You will hate me as I remorselessly restock my larder. And that, dear boy, is how it should be. Yours, most sincerely, DPD.
On to the joint second prize, and the first of these is from Claire Best of Woodbridge in Suffolk, England, after your procedure.
After your procedure, go straight home. It will take a while. You will bleed, slowly, heavily. You may have cramps in circles. Do not walk or drive on your own. Wear loose clothing. Cry when you can. Hold a hot water bottle to your lower abdomen. Be aware of a space inside. Do not shower without someone nearby. Now and then you might fall. You might feel lightheaded. You might always feel lightheaded. The speed of your recovery, the extent of your recovery, will depend on your procedure, will depend on your grief. You should wait several weeks that cannot be measured before resuming physical work or sport. Try to accept you will soon be fit again. You will never be the same. You might feel relieved or sad. Think of a crater, or more often, a mix of emotions. How quick, slow the healing. Take plenty of water for the place you will become. Resist strenuous activity. And if poppies and nettles take root Spend time with friends. Moths and bees will return. Go straight home. You will bleed. You may have cramps. Do not walk or drive. Wear loose clothing. Hold a hot water bottle to your lower abdomen. Do not shower without someone nearby. You might feel lightheaded. The speed of your recovery will depend on your procedure. You should wait several weeks before resuming physical work or sport. You will soon be fit again. You might feel relieved or sad, or more often, a mix of emotions. Take plenty of water. Resist strenuous activity. Spend time with friends. It will take a while, slowly, heavily, in circles on your own. Cry when you can. Be aware of a space inside. Now and then, you might fall. You might always feel lightheaded. The extent of your recovery will depend on your grief that cannot be measured. Try to accept you will never be the same. Think of a crater, how quick, slow the healing for the place you will become. And if poppies and nettles take root, moths and bees will return.
Thank you, Claire. And the second of the joint second prizes goes to Ian Collin from London for his poem, Fighting the Minotaur.
Fighting the Minotaur. A Sunday Times puzzle, his beard, midnight with salt and silverflex. I know each patterned strand of hair. The laugh lines around soft lips I kiss, and the bullying brown mole, a moon near his ear that shouts, "Hello, careful, I bleed." So I go slow before proceeding to a stubborn chin. Up, down, down, up. Sometimes in circles, crisscrossing diagonal lines, we travel to and from parallel worlds, horizontal horizons with an unmapped zigzag, or a gentle rolling curve before we go forward. Up, down, down, up. This face I know, smooth, patchy, bearded, his forehead wrinkles, his one half dimple. Can we do this later? He asked, each word wrapped in triumph over aphasia. We're almost done. Would you like to finish? His hands, still strong, grasp the razor, and he guides the buzzing blades to 2 days stubble. Up, down, down, up. Soon he tires, hands the razor to me. Later, I promise, he whispers.
So on to the winner, the first prize in the Open Award category, and it is the poem People Scare Me Because by Sarah James from Droitwich in Worcestershire in England. So Sarah, congratulations, and I think you're here to read your poem.
So my poem, People Scare Me Because, has an epigraph of reported speech, which shows some traits of avoidant personality or Asperger's. People scare me because they're like milk bottles on winter doorsteps, contents distanced by glass, and frozen to my touch. Even cracked, they're still rigid, opaque, unflowing. If I reach out to grasp one, I might drop it. It wouldn't spill, but slivers cut my fingers, feet, heart. Worse, a fragment could lodge and become part of me. When I step towards them and open my mouth to speak, I'm the bottle of frozen milk. My richest cream is a thick seal, a foil lid welded to me. Cold and slippery, I slide into free fall, broken before I feel the stony path. I cut my own hands, soles, heart, and when I bleed slivers of dirtied glass. When I stop bleeding and peer through glass sharply, I see a world of emptied bottles or bottled empties, alike in the fear of jagged edges and a need for something filling. The tongue's a waxed wick or a petroled fuse of screwed feelings. One lit word, and we're makeshift lamped or primed grenades.
Thank you very much indeed, Sarah. Congratulations indeed to all the winners and to those commended in this competition who will be published in the anthology. And with thanks again to all of those who shared their writing. As I say, we had a really pleasurable, if as you can see, exceedingly difficult time making any judgments about such a wonderful set of poems. So I'll hand over now to Michael, who I think is going to make some further remarks. Over to Michael.
Thank you, everybody. I have been tremendously moved by those readings, and I can see as well from all the remarks that have gone to and fro just how much they have touched everyone who's been listening. All of the poems that have won or been commended this year have tremendous emotional resonance, a real lived experience, and also a rhythmic sinew. It's wonderful to hear these poems. Tremendous applause to all, and also great thanks. The Fellowship of Postgraduate Medicine, by its generosity, makes this possible, as Donald said earlier on. Thank you to our sponsors, and thank you very much to all of you poets. I should say that there are numerous past prize winners among the names present today. Wendy French is there, as well as Michael Henry. They were in our first 2 years ever. Andy Dimitri, a second prize winner from down under, from Sydney in Australia, is there. It's a grand gathering. It's a real privilege to be present at this. I'd like to say first, of course, that what usually happens if we're all present together in person is that after this, we're able to go off and share a glass of wine together, buy the book. Please consider the reception that normally happens to be happening in each of your homes now. Since I've mentioned the anthology, if you will order through the website, we will make sure you get your copies. Let me also alert you to a couple of other books which will be coming up. We were to have launched our anthology of the first 10 years of all the major prize-winning poems of the first 10 years. We hope that that will happen on the 4th of November. So please keep the date for a London launch of the first 10 years of the Hippocrates Prize. Another book, a most unusual one, which is in production, is by the Syrian poet Fuad M. Fuad, who in recent years has been living in exile in Beirut, in Lebanon. And a selection of his poems centered upon Aleppo is coming shortly from Hippocrates Press in translations by his friend Norbert Hirschhorn, who is also a familiar name to many friends of the Hippocrates Initiative, a distinguished physician honored by the Clinton administration years back, and also a poet. And together they have worked on English versions of a selection of Fuad's poems called Once Upon a Time in Aleppo. Please watch out for announcements of that publication on the website. And we hope that there will be opportunities for launch readings and so on once it becomes possible to have gatherings again in the flesh. But we have our ongoing series, I'll just say a word about the next one, of Poems to Live For. And our next of those sessions will be on the 10th of June. So put that date in your diaries, please, the 10th of June. It will feature readings by two of our judges this year, the poet judges, Lawrence Sail and Jeffrey Lehman. Lawrence's reading, I can already say, is a true delight and a very moving reading. Jeffrey's includes his most celebrated and popular poem, Parenthood. But now I'll hand you back to Donald.
Thank you, Michael. I'd like to add my own thanks to all our judges, our winning and commended poets, everyone who entered, as well as all of you who've joined today's session. You can find out about all the poets and what inspired them to write their winning and commended poems by going to our website, hippocrates-poetry.org, where you can also find out details about the Hippocrates Awards and how to enter for the 2021 Hippocrates Prize. As you've heard from Michael, our new monthly series of online sessions called Poems to Live For are well underway. We welcome suggestions for poems to be read. These should be not your own and should be out of copyright. Do please email your suggestions to hippocrates.poetry@gmail.com. Entries for the 2021 Hippocrates Prize are now open. For further details, please go to our website, hippocrates-poetry.org.